Okay, so you have some extra money laying around now that you're not building your bunker and stop buying ammo by the dump truck. You've seen that new Crooked River by Benchmade, and it looks like something you might need to buy, despite sharing the first name Crooked with something else that's also bought. Wink. So let's check out the dimensions, which turns out is not any easier than just saying dimensions, like the overall length, the blade size, the gut and edge, the handle grip area, the thickness of its spine, handle thickness, and weight. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, don't you hate heavy knives? All I gotta say is look at the Buck 110, which weighs 2 ounces more, and then get back to me. Also, I don't own it, I just looked up the specs online. Anyway, you really don't have to get back to me. Heavier folders have their place, and this channel loves all knives. And also, I have to rationalize the price. Okay, so the Crooked River. It has a nice big blade fashioned, turn to the left, on the bench out of S30V steel with a two-tone satin and stone-washed finish, like something out of the 80s. It has a flat grind and a clip point blade style. It was pretty sharp out of the box, although I will say the edge grind compared to the right and the left side was what looked like a slightly incongruent angle, I guess. Not that big of a deal if you plan on beating it up and sharpening it like I do. The lock is a common Benchmade axis lock. I loosened the pivot slightly to make the blade fall a bit harder and made it a tad easier to deploy. The slight adjustment did not seem to affect blade centering, which was spot on for me. Deployment is smooth and fluid, and it has brass washers on either side of the pivot. Just an easy hit of the thumb stud deploys the big blade. Now, sometimes if you deploy the knife too hard, the lock gets slightly stuck, but not too often. This seems to occur on my 551 as well. I usually just bang the blade spine on like a piece of wood or something that fixes it, or whatever. Anyway, you can hold back the axis lock and flick hard enough to get the lock to lock that way. That's the advanced knife bro move. You can also get it to deploy if you fling it extra hard. It won't come open in your pocket, but it is possible to lock it if you do it just right and hard enough. The construction of the knife is classic looking, with your classic looking wood handle and bright orange backspacer and your classic looking bolsters up front. Classic looking, classic looking. I know it doesn't look exactly like a 110 or even really close to it, but it does have a nice, guess what, classic look. The bright orange gives it some sort of accents that are easier to find when you drop it in the woods and look like your safety vest when you're hunting or riding your bike. The Crooked River can be had in two versions, one with stabilized wood scales like this one, or with G10 scales. Now, because I like wood, I got wood. The handle and ergonomics are just great on this knife, and the handle is plenty big, and it feels nice in the hand. The light jimping on the blade spine and near the rear of the knife aren't real aggressive and don't give a whole lot of traction. Now, I don't know what the G10 feels like, but the wood is fairly smooth, but not slick. Inside you get a skeletonized full stainless steel liner, and that's all I have to say about it. Hey, it saves weight, right? The clip is reversible to right or left side and tip up only, so it helps for faster deployment for tactical bros. It ain't super deep, but it's, I don't know, mid-deep. Okay, so what kind of YouTube video would this be without a big outdoor hunting knife if I didn't skin a moose and I guess I gotta kill it first? Now, if I didn't, that would be pretty amazing. Okay, you won't find any of that here. Now, since I usually have a half dozen fallen limbs laying around my yard, because I don't pick them up often enough, and some cardboard from my Amazon expeditions of shopping, let's do that instead. And we'll pretend this bed frame box is the stomach of an elk. Cool. While I'm gutting this box, let's talk about our knife feelings. I really like the Crooked River. Is that a question? It has a nice big handle with a lot of room. Should be good for bigger hands too. My hands aren't small, but they're, I'm not 6'8". I like the styling, and the orange accents remind me of my public land hunting days when I lived in the Midwest, because hunting has now been outlawed in Virginia. Okay, that's a lie, not yet. The knife holds an edge quite well, and although I dinged the blade on the concrete on the front porch when I was murdering that rotting pumpkin earlier, It was only a tiny little section. It cuts through the box just fine, not like butter, but this is pretty thick cardboard. Plus I'm cutting across the grain, and it's 48 degrees outside and it's a Monday, so those are things that also affect that. Okay, how about some light batoning? Okay, no, first I'm going to do some chopping. The Crooked River is a large knife, but in my experience, axis locks do fold when you baton with them. You're like, you aren't supposed to baton. It's a hunting knife, not a batoning knife. Anyway, unless you're hunting for a thumbs down, partner, and then you can baton with it. I'll do some chopping, and I'll cut this stick into awkwardly, because that's the sort of stuff I do on this channel. And you're like, what's the purpose? Which is a good question. It's consumerism. That's the purpose. We look at videos of knives, we buy knives, and then we wonder what it all means, feel bad about buying knives, stop buying knives for a while. Then we buy more knives. Okay, sticks successfully chopped. That was actually a goal on my list of things to do today, so, some of us have to aim low. All right, now the batoning. I said earlier that it should fold, and spoiler alert, it does fold. Even before I get to the knot further down the stick, or whatever the hell it is. I'll eventually get through it, but it's a little challenging. I've only encountered the SOG arc lock on one knife, and if you remember correctly, the locks are operated the same, even if internally they're different. And that one never folded once. I beat my wood a lot more with that one, and yeah, it was better. At least for this sort of antic. I'm not really sure what that means to knife science, other than smacking a Benchmade on the blade spine with wood can cause the lock to disengage. If you don't baton, you'll never know the difference though. The edge was still very usable after the review, but I'll be touching it up because of the kiss to the concrete and the slightly incongruent factory edge grind. And yeah, it wasn't really hair shaving sharp after the review was over. Working sharp, not razor sharp. In about 10 minutes on, the Sharp Maker whipped it right back into shape. If you like this review and the stupid stuff I do in it, subscribe to my channel, like my video, follow me on Instagram, leave a comment, and go outside and play with your knife. And if you don't like it, then thanks a lot for watching. The whole thing anyway.